Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. And today, what I want to take a look at is this little magazine right here from 1977, Vengeance Squad. Actually, it's originally from 1975. This is from Charlton Comics. In this case, it's Modern Comics, which is also Charlton Comics. Yes, an action-packed, daring adventure. Consult the Big Book of Knowledge. No, already did that. Did that one too. Here we go. Vengeance Squad, number 5, 1977, reprint from 1975. Charlton Modern Comics. It was written by Joe Gill with art by Pete Morisi. And the Vengeance Squad was created by Joe Gill and Frank Boll, which started in 1975. It was a special law enforcement espionage type group headed by former Treasury agent Eric Red, who had been framed for a crime, spending 6 years in prison. And when he got out, he started this organization. Security, but it seems to be more than security. And the title ran for a total of 6 issues in 75 and 76, and then 2 issues were reprinted in 77 for Modern Comics, and these were like packaged in 3 or 5 issues per copies per books per package, and sold at like department stores and grocery stores and stuff like that. Okay, this is like a spy book story. Could have been culled from some of the action movies of the 70s. Okay, let's take a little trip and a little visit with Eric Red and his Vengeance Squad. Vengeance Squad. Here you can get a better look at that cover illustration by Pete Morisi. Very eye-catching, kind of pretty dynamic. Very nicely drawn. And he wrote he drew the main story in this book. And then it also has the backup story, which is not Vengeance Squad. The backup story is Mike Mauser, private investigator, who is drawn by Joe Staton, who was previously done E-Man. We'll cover E-Man sometime in the near future, and Mike Mauser was a backup in E-Man, and then was rolled into as a regular character in E-Man, but he still had his own backup feature. Okay, and Pete Morisi, the artist, is from 1928 to 2003, and he, as you can see right here, he had a special way of signing his name. He used to sign his work as Pam. This is for about 20 years he did that. He's an American comic book artist and writer. He spent much of his life as a New York police department officer. And after he became a cop, he didn't sign his proper name to his work. He just his initials, because moonlighting wasn't allowed. And he was moonlighting. So he still worked while he was a cop. He probably didn't produce nearly as much as he would have or would have tried to. And he's best known for his long-time work at Charlton Comics in the 60s and 70s, where he created Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. Didn't have too many issues with that either. But I remember that when I was still just a real youngster. And that was one of the characters that DC had bought in the like Blue Beetle and Captain Atom in the early 80s. And I think to my knowledge, they only really used him once. They had a short-lived miniseries of that character. And he was born in Brooklyn, New York, and educated at the School of Industrial Art and the Cartoonist and Illustrator School. He started professional work as an assistant on Dickie Dare and the Saint comic strips. Yeah, that's the Saint. The old. I'm suddenly drawing a blank. It used to be James Bond, and I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name. On those comic strips, because the Saint goes back in books back to the pulp era in the 30s. Even had an old radio show. So he had just started at Fox Comics in 1948 when he was drafted into the Army until 1950. Then he worked in the production after the Army. He worked in the production department at Harvey Comics, and he wrote crime and romance comics for Fox. And he did freelance work for a host of publishers in the 50s, including Timely and Atlas and a whole bunch of others that did a lot of westerns. I mean, a lot of westerns and mystery anthologies. And with the Comics Code Authority, it killed a lot of the publishers in the 50s, and that made work a little more scarce. And I guess he had always wanted to be a cop. So in 1956, from 56 to 57, he became a cop. And yet he was still working on comics during that time when he was moonlighting, and he did a lot of stuff there. So that is what we've got on Pete Morisi. And here you see the splash page. Death is driving. He had kind of a stiff style to him. But he was a very fine artist. Very nice draftsmanship, and it almost might have been better for posters and stuff. Here you see the three characters: Eric Red, Tulsa, and Candy. And all you see her is in silhouette. As they're parachuting in, they're already in the middle of a mission, and here it is. And here's the villain. This guy in the hood, kind of make him look like a little like a supervillain, even though he's not a supervillain per se. So they were spotted when they're coming in to this location, and they're immediately fired upon, even before they land. Get rid of their stuff. There's an explosion, kablooey, because they covered themselves with grenades and the like. And then they charge in right into the thick of the battle. It turns out this is in Europe, in Monaco, actually in Monaco, producing heroin at this location, or yeah, I think that's what they're doing. They're bringing in the raw opium and then producing heroin, and then off on into Europe and the U.S. So they're attacking and fighting, and there's Tulsa. He's the big bruiser. Just slugs the guy, but he manages to take off while everyone else is distracted with his guard. Excuse me, with his guards. More explosions. See, the Joe Gill wrote this, and it's actually, I mean, it's not a bad story. It's just even he could have used a few more pages to actually tell this story. Things are kind of compressed. Sometimes with Morisi, his a little lacking in the panel-to-panel continuity to the storytelling, but the individual illustrations were just outstanding. Had a nice sense of design. Had some creative page layouts and panel compositions. Like here, it's really nice, and he did wonders with the human figure, both the male and female. Kind of an open style. Did not produce a whole lot of detail, but he mostly inferred detail. Left a lot of stuff open here as they're about to be killed with a thrown hand grenade, and Eric Red manages to blow it out of the air. So you can see the really nice illustration for that. Then they're getting in farther, and now they've got to get out while they're just engaged in battle. Explosions are starting. That head guy in the hood, he got away, but he had self-destruct set up, so the place is blown up. We've just got to get out of here, which doesn't destroy his organization, just destroys this facility. And smart, that hooded character had a self-destruct switch for his heroin factory. But they got out just in time, and they had arranged transportation for after the mission right there. And since they are in Monaco, they're close to Monte Carlo. Get in the car. Really nice drawing on this lovely Rolls Royce. And you can see some of the interesting compositions he did. The way he would draw, instead of breaking the panel itself up, which he did sometimes, broke up the interior design. And they go to Monaco, Monte Carlo. It was a hired car that would go there in this fancy place. Because, hey, this is international espionage and law enforcement. There's lots of money especially when they have to be they're still working. They got to try to come up with a way to find out who this hooded character is and put him out of business. So here, their breakfast is being served. He's just speaking freely in front of them. First, we got a cable from our friends in Washington that we destroyed the heroin lab near Toulon last night. The maid heard what you said. That's the way I want to play this, Tulsa. Until that hooded character hears of it and makes a move. So they're going around, they've got to get some cars and stuff. So they're up at a car dealership, and just see here, you can see I kind of broke up the panel border on this panel bit, and he had a lot of geometric designs in his stuff. It was really strong, even in the background. Even you can see here the explosions. You can see the clouds, etc. Here, His nice background, very minimal on his backgrounds, and most of his panels seem to be mid shots, less full figures. And I imagine it was probably easier for him to draw, especially with doing the minimalist detail and making do with a lot of the design. And speaking freely about confidential type stuff in front of the dealer, and then Candy, she goes to the beach, and there she sees that car dealer meeting up with this fellow here overhears them, and this guy, Mr. Polo, with a French spelling. I must speak to you. I have information. Took the bait. So that must be someone involved in this organization here. So she's keeping an eye on them while she's just doing her stuff. His work would have been really nice in romance comics. He just did the very lovely ladies and very handsome men. Just some great draftsmanship. Skimped a little on the visual storytelling, though. Here, this is one of the few that is all still minimal detail, mostly design, but one of the few panels that doesn't have the figures in it. And here tells informing Eric Red about this fellow Marco Polo, and is trying to get information on him. And according to Interpol, Marco Polo has no arrests, but he has unexplained wealth and associates with the most successful criminals in the world. So he's got this new fancy car, and they've got this race that's coming up in a few days, and he's going to drive in that. And so is Marco Polo. He's running on the road that's learning the route, and for a few minutes time here, another fancy car comes up and tries to run him off the road. But the other guy gets run off the road, but not fatally so, just off the road. And that's him. And then they confront one another. I said, "On your feet, Polo. Too bad you weren't crushed on those rocks below you." It's got a really nice detail on the gun and that hand. And again, in that one right there, they're going to he's going to just leave the guy there. He's got to walk back, and he goes, "I'm going to kill you. You're a soft-hearted fool." I said, "No, don't think I'm going to let you off. I'm going to kill you, just not yet." So there they are in their hotel room, talking about everything. And again, nice figures, nice background design, and they're out gambling. And then he confronts him and says, "I just don't. This is just going to be between me and you, and I don't want my friends involved in this." And that takes a cue from that, and Polo snatches the girl Candy. That was the idea, snatch Candy, and because she's wired. He takes her out to his yacht where he lives, where he's staying, and they've got her tied up, and everything that's being said is being transmitted. Here she is tied up, a prisoner on the ship, and here they are listening in. Now this is where it gets pretty iffy, because a major event in the story, and it's all in one little caption box. It says, "Candy worked out of it herself as she dove over the side." Yeah, she got herself away and sank the boat. We don't see any of that. We don't see that. That would have been a very good and exciting part of the story, and we saw none of it. Here they are back. Almost time for the race, but while she was on the boat, she got the hood. I said, no, this can't be. I agree with you. Candy was involved in a rather nasty explosion last night. The yacht she was on blew up, blah, blah, blah. I said, so he said, "No, you laugh at me, I'll teach you." And here they are during the race. And they're racing, and he's trying to run him off the road again. Except this time, it's Marco Polo who goes over the side. Dun-dun, dun-dun. This is like right out of Mannix, the opening credits of Mannix, an old TV show. And so Marco Polo is dead. The Candy says, "Okay, now while we're here, can we have a little bit of vacation?" "No, I already got plane reservations. We got to get back to New York." Dun da da, and that's the end. It's a little bit anticlimactic in the story. Some very, very nice draftsmanship. It should have been a decent story, but it probably should have been longer to tell the story properly. And I notice that almost nowhere, virtually nowhere, in this story is much in the way of linear perspective. He used his design, Morisi used his design skills to avoid using linear perspective and still tell the story, probably because it saved time. The more linear perspective you've got to do in your backgrounds, and it's done so well that you hardly notice it. I had to look for it, and because it's difficult to actually draw, avoiding linear perspective. It's shortcuts that a lot of artists use, but sometimes you've just got to. And here he didn't use it anywhere at all. So that's what I've got for Vengeance Squad. It's a fun little book. It's not spectacular. The artwork is better than the story, and even the story the art is lacking in visual storytelling. But it does display some excellent draftsmanship and design. So thank you for joining me here for the Vengeance Squad. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We'll see you next time. And remember, comics are art.